Not that I can make this work, but I'm actually going to try to make it work. Hi, I'm Ridley. Years ago, many years ago now, maybe 12 years ago, I was reading Peter Pan to my then 5-year-old daughter. And I was reading the book, Peter Pan. This guy knew how to milk a cow. He wrote a play, then he wrote a short story, and finally he wrote a novella, all with the same story, which was Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie. And I was reading the novella to my daughter, which is pretty dark and different. And we were about 5 pages in, and she just slapped the book and said, "Hey Dad, how did Peter meet Captain Hook in the first place?" And I went, "Oh my gosh! How come he can fly? Why does he never grow old? How can he detach from his shadow? Why would he bother? Why does he want to? Where did Captain Hook come from?" Her question, where did Tinkerbell come from? So I play in a rock band with a number of crazy authors, Amy Tan, Scott Turow, Greg Iles, Mitch Albom, Roy Blunt Jr., Matt Groening, who created The Simpsons, did I mention Amy Tan, Dave Barry, and Stephen King. And one of them, Dave Barry, was a close friend, and we were playing one of these shows about a week after my daughter asked me that. And I mentioned it over breakfast, and Dave and I decided to try to write that book together. And we had this amazing time doing it, and it kind of opened up the world of writing for kids, which I had opened up in my own head earlier because Disney had asked me to see if I could do my crime writing for a younger audience set inside their theme parks. And this was a great challenge because they wanted me to write a thriller that nothing bad could happen. Nobody could get hurt, no weapons could be involved, no parks could be damaged. And I was supposed to make suspense out of this. And I said, well, you know, I love a challenge. So I sent them 4 or 5 different outlines about ideas that I had. And I said, you know, one of the things here is I would need full access to your theme parks if I was going to do this, because I do a ton of research for my crime novels. And they said, we don't give full access to our theme parks. And I said, well, then I'll go back to my crime novels. And they called about a month later and said, okay, we've got you full access to the theme parks, and we can bring you in when the parks are closed, which is what I wanted. Because who hasn't dreamed about being inside Disneyland or Disney World when no one else is there? And I had had kind of a Toy Story moment walking out of the park with my family because 60,000 of us were leaving the park, and not one of them was Goofy or Minnie or Mickey. Those guys were seemingly staying behind. And I thought, what are these guys doing while the rest of us are sleeping? And it occurred to me, with these great villains that Walt Disney and his team had come up with, that there might be this ongoing battle between the good characters in Disney and these atrocious villains for control of the magic in the park. And so far, all these years, the good has always prevailed. And so whenever we go in there, we're bright and happy. But were the villains to ever prevail, we would all go in there and it would be like one giant haunted mansion. And so the good characters are always fighting for that. And these teens who break into Disney World would find themselves stuck in the middle of this sort of epic battle. And of course, I couldn't make them kids because nothing bad can happen to kids. That was part of the edict that they had put on me. So I was at a seminar not long after that, and a guy had, you can get these things on the internet, a guy had a little thing that looks like almost like a salad bowl with a lid on top. And sitting on top of the salad bowl was this little pink plastic pig. Say that 5 times fast. And so on the break, I just had to see what this was, so I went to pick up the pig, and it was a hologram. This thing was a natural light hologram, didn't have any electricity. It's all done with mirrors inside. A little pig sits down in the middle, and it projects a hologram right up onto the top, and it looks dead solid. There is, you know, sometimes when we see holograms in movies, they look all sort of ghostly. This thing looked as solid as anything you can see or touch. And you can put a strawberry in the bottom of it. It has a limited range. You know, it's a very big parabolic mirror for a very small item. And I was fascinated with this thing because it dawned on me, if these kids were holograms in the park, then nothing bad could happen to them. They'd just be light. And when somebody tried to hit them, bullets, anything would go right through them. And I had seen people, this was back in the age where I had seen people in the park with this stuffed Mickey Mouse called Pal Mickey. And Pal Mickey was radio controlled so that when you got near a certain attraction, it would go, oh boy, here we are at the Haunted Mansion. and I thought that needed a little updating. It looked a little antiquated to me. So I thought the cool updating would be to have hologram teenagers appear at the front of the park. And if you were wearing a certain button that you paid an extra $15 for, it would go, hi, Mr. Pearson. I'm Austin, and I'm here to show you to the Haunted Mansion. And he would know your itinerary and know the best way through the park, and this hologram that your kids could wipe their arm through would show you around the park. But for that, they would need 5 kids from Orlando who posed as these holograms and had gone through all the motions for the computer to be able to generate them. And that the story would be about the 5 kids. So those are my 5 Kingdom Keepers, and they end up inside the parks after the parks have closed, as holograms most of the time, and they find themselves in the middle of this epic battle of good against evil, and they're stuck in it. The really fun thing for me was that I had asked them for this full access, and they gave it to me. So I got to go in the parks at 5, usually about 4:30 or 5 in the morning, with a Disney Imagineer, the people that create the attractions for Disneyland and Disney World, and be toured around. And I went on Small World, and 2 of the dolls moved and scared the brr out of me. And I wrote about that. And I went on Expedition Everest and walked it for 2 hours, all through it with the guy who had engineered it and overseen it while it was being built. And so experience after experience after experience would terrify me. And I would just go home and write as if I was a teenager inside the park having these same experiences. They let me onto their cruise ships. They gave me 5 free cruises on their cruise ships, one of which was a 15-night cruise from Cape Canaveral through the Panama Canal to Los Angeles, where I wanted to move the Kingdom Keepers. And I finally got to book 7, which is out this week. I am a planner. Dave Barry, whom I write with, says if there are type A people, I am type AA, which I don't think is a compliment. So when I went to write the series, which I thought was a 5-book series, I had planned the beginning, middle, and end. I knew basically where it was going to go. Not all the bullet points of the motions and actions, but basically where it would go thematically. And then we added 2 books for the cruise line, because there was no way I could do that cruise ship experience in a single book. I tried, but it just got astronomically big. As did this book. This book should really be 2 books, but Disney wouldn't hear anything of it. So get ready for a ride. And as I came to the close of the 7th book, I simply couldn't bear the thought of writing it without my readers, because over the course of the 9 years, I had realized that I had the coolest readers on earth. And they had read these books 6, 7, 11 times and emailed me about it. And all the details that only one person knew, which is Brooke Mushat, who sat in this chair about 3 years ago, and I hired her on the spot.
I remember that. I was sitting next to her.
Really? Yeah. Oh, were you the woman next to her?
The Dave Barry, the talk with Dave Barry, is that?
No, I think I was here alone.
No,
wasn't it?
was
it Dave?
Bridge
Yeah.
Neverland.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I remember thinking,
And I thought you were a
that
mother.
girl is
So anyway, I hired her right out of Kepler's because she's now my actual memory. I have no memory, so I can just turn to Brooke and say, what happened in book 3? So it's been a ride where I didn't want to end it without the readers, even though I had an idea of how I would end it. So a company here in Palo Alto called Colloquy created an app that you can get on all the different platforms, and it's also a website. And over a period of about 6 months, we had 150,000 young and old people contributing ideas and fan fiction to what became book 7. So the first third of the book has fan contributions in it and fan ideas in it, which was just so fun. The last 2/3 of the book, unfortunately, weren't as fun because I had to write them by myself and in a very short amount of time. So I had like 18-hour days for about 3.5 months. But I take you to Disneyland now. In real life, that's Walt's apartment, and they've let me into Walt's apartment 2 or 3 times, and let me sort of absorb the spiritual space of it and study everything that was in there, and I've had a blast in there. And actually, Brooke got in there once, and I shot a Disney 365, which is now airing, and one of the pieces was shot in there. I've just had, the dream experience, because I've gone to places nobody's allowed to go, and then I've been able to write about it without being censored by Disney. They should have stopped me a long time ago. The part of book 7 goes to Storybook Land, where everything is very small, and the Kingdom Keepers need to find something that's very small, so they need to shrink in order to be in there. And into the Haunted Mansion, which I've been into twice with the lights on, and it's actually creepier with the lights on than with them off, because you can see even more. It's a terrific ride, and I had seen and witnessed a number of kids in the stretch room. I don't know how many of you have ever seen it, but the first scene in the Haunted Mansion is you're in a room and all the doors shut, there's no way in or out, and then the room grows really tall with a really dark voice telling you you're never going to get out of there, and they need another soul for their 9,000 million lives, and it's quite terrifying. And I had seen kids run out of there when they did open the door, screaming and terrified, and not get on the doom buggies, which then take you through the full ride. And there's a false exit in there that they can let you out of, that the cast members call the chicken door. For when you're chicken, you go out that door. And I wrote the chicken door into the first book, and tens of thousands of kids read the book, and then they went into the ride wanting to go through the chicken door, not wanting to do the ride. And so the way this got to me was that security had ended up calling the park authorities, saying, what's with the Kingdom Keepers and all these kids wanting to go out the exit? Because they were all coming into the stretch room and then going out the exit, coming in there, going out the exit. And they said, what can we do about this? So one of the things we did on the East Coast, which we may try to bring west, is we did the Kingdom Keepers quests, which are for an educational system that Disney has called Youth Educational Services. And we built 2 of them. The Animal Kingdom is just about to open. But these quests are 10 kids or more, and they have to have a teacher or an adult with them. And they follow math and language arts puzzles and clues that they can't move on to the next place until they solve the one that I've created. And they move through the park over about a 4-hour period, and at the end of it, they're a Kingdom Keeper. And those have been really popular, so we've now done another one inside the Animal Kingdom. But I'm a huge advocate of early reading and early writing, which is one reason we do this fan fiction thing, because it's during a commencement week in May last year on a Friday night. We had 1,700 submissions of our fan fiction, which meant to me there were 700 middle and high school kids who were home instead of out drinking and rebel-routing, and that made me feel great. This experience with Insider has been fabulous, and we're going to continue it. We do fan fiction every week. Other spots in the book are World of Color, which is a fabulous light and water show. And again, Brooke, who serves as one of my workers, wrote me an email and said, hey, it would be way cool if the kids ever rode one of those 150-foot bursts of water. And I said, well, yeah, that would be cool. And she said, can you figure out a way to do that? And I said, of course I can figure out a way to do that. They will invert a metal umbrella, get over it, and it will blast them 150 feet. So in book 7, that's what happens. Spoiler alert. The final big epic moment is at Matterhorn. The secret of Matterhorn is
There's a basketball.
Basketball
There's a
court.
half-court basketball court up there. They no longer use it, but for years the
top,
cast members would take
inside.
a break and use it up there. There's also way up there, you can almost see a little antenna up there. If you look on Google Earth, you can look down on the Matterhorn, and there's actually a terrace up there that is very tricky to get up to. And up there, Finn will arrive and end up meeting somebody he does not wish to be up there because they would like him to take the express trip down. You know what I mean? So in my crime novels, which I write mostly for grown-ups, I've written 25 or 30 of them, and I've had this weird, otherworldly thing where I usually pick a social subject that means something to me to write about, or a particular kind of crime, and then, I don't know, within 3 weeks of my publishing the book, that crime has appeared on the front page of the New York Times and is a big deal. And it's happened multiple times, which gives me the weebies about the subjects I pick. And in this book, Kingdom Keeper 7, I haven't had one of those occurrences for probably 4 or 5 years. And on Friday night of last week, anybody remember what happened in LA Friday night of last week? Earthquake. So I was in the hotel room in Disneyland Hotel on the 9th floor. I'd had a huge day of signings, so I went to sleep early. And at 9:30, I was awakened by the first one and just shook out of bed by the second one. And everything's moving, including the hotel is earthquake equipped, so it's on rollers. So your room is moving back and forth like this, and it's going, and everything's dancing around the room, you know. And I don't like roller coasters. So I thought this is a mean trick to play on me, and I turned on the television, and they said, there's been an earthquake, and it's all over the area, and it's centered in La Habra. That's the same epicenter of an earthquake in Book 7, spoiler alert. So I was freaked out. I mean, I had written about this thing, and I was being shook out of bed by the same scene that I'd written about, and I actually threw the things open and tried to look at Disneyland, because in my version it rips cracks open in the earth, fire's coming out, hence the cover. Where's my cover? Here's my cover. Fire, cracks, demolition. So it was one of those sort of, hairy, crazy moments. You can still come on The Insider, which is at kingdomkeepersinsider.com, and contribute fan fiction. We would love to have you. Every week we do a new piece of fan fiction, and we have a couple thousand people still on there every week doing it with us. It's tons of fun. And because I fell in love with these characters, I'm not giving up on the Kingdom Keepers. This is the 7th and final book in the series, but I'm telling live audiences, I'm not putting it online yet, that I'm going to keep the characters and imagine a new world for them to be in, but it will be the Disney parks, just in a way that I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to be one of those authors that just puts a new title on the same book over and over. So I'm working hard not to do that. It's a 3-book series, and it's going to be called The Return, Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3. And for those of you who read the series, The Return, or don't read the series, The Return is a little like car fob that when you push it, it takes the kids out of their hologram state and puts them back. And the slogan that we've been working with since 7 was imagined was, the return is just the beginning. So now that's come true, because I think this next series will be called The Return. So that's my little dog and pony show. And I have the best job in the world, thanks to my readers, and thanks to you guys coming to a place like Kepler's and supporting it. You support authors without knowing it. And it isn't about making dollars or anything like that. And Kepler's often doesn't make money on a signing like this. But they do this because they can introduce you to either writers you like and know, or writers you've never heard of. And the difference between a Kepler's and a Barnes & Noble, Barnes & Noble will put my kids through college, and I love them for that. But Kepler's will introduce, like back when I was 48 books ago, when I was trying to start being a mystery writer, I would come to Kepler's or other independent bookstores and meet 3 people at a signing, and the next year it would be 6, and the next year it would be 25, and they would let you build a readership. So what you do when you come here is you support that idea of building new writers, which we need. We always need new blood. because otherwise we're going to have, you know, Stephen King and Amy Tan, who are in my band, and I love them, but that's all we'll have pretty soon. So by supporting independent bookstores tonight, you've done a really good thing. So thanks for coming, and I'm happy to take questions if you have. Yeah.
Is Wayne based off a real person?
Great question. Is Wayne is a mentor of the Kingdom Keepers in the series, and I had been given this privilege of going after hours into Disney, and I was on Splash Mountain, and it took us, Splash Mountain is dry by day, and of course they turn on the huge jets when they start up the ride, and it's 5,000 gallons a minute to go through that system. So we were walking it when it was dry. And I was walking around with this slightly stooped, gray-haired dude who knew everything about Disney World. He had basically run Splash Mountain for 35 years. He could remember meeting Roy Disney. Anything I asked him, he knew trivia-wise to do with the company. And I said, you know, at the end of this tour, I have this character in my book called Fred. And he's the mentor, and that was a joke because an old schoolmate of mine and I would call each other Fred. And that was really as a joke to my friend. But I said, you know, Fred's a dumb, stupid name really to put in this book. What if I called him after you? Would that be okay? And he said, oh, what an honor, I would love that. And the name tag he was wearing was Wayne. So for the last 9 years, kids getting on to Splash Mountain in the Magic Kingdom, in the Magic Kingdom, but in Disney World, would see this guy and they'd go, whoa, wait, are you the Wayne from the Kingdom Keepers? And he'd go, heck yes. And he always carried a Sharpie and he would sign their maps. He's going to retire in, I think, like 10 days. So that's the end of Wayne at Splash Mountain. But it's been so cool because I would get these just effervescent emails from kids saying, I met Wayne! Yeah. And he plays it right to a T. He goes, heck yes, I'm the guy from the Kingdom Keepers. All those Kingdom Keepers are right under me, and I tell them what to do. And he plays the role great. So it's been so much fun. So Carousel of Progress, which is now in Adventures, and we were with the great-granddaughter of Frank Baum, the guy who wrote Wizard of Oz. She works for Disney and is a top executive in Disney, and she runs this entire pavilion, which now has all the Marvel stuff in it, so it's wildly popular. And if you want a cool attraction, you stand in front of this screen, you know, Doofus Ridley up there, and all of a sudden all these flying parts of the Iron Man suit stick to you, and no matter how you move, they're stuck to you. It's way cool. And it's attracting huge numbers. So she was touring us around this facility because they've installed my books, which is the biggest honor I've probably ever had, as a permanent display in Innoventions. And we went down into this one section and there was this big open area, and we were all standing around and I said, what's that? And she said, oh, that used to be something. What was it? It was something. And she said, say, maybe that would work for a Kingdom Keepers display. And I said, I'm on it. And so we're trying to see if we can't set up a little piece of that pavilion as a Kingdom Keepers hologram display. We'll see if anything comes of it. You know, probably not, but it's really fun to read. Any others before I just sign books here? Yep. Yes.
How did Disney react the first time when they read that small world scene?
Well, that is what's amazing about this whole thing is the reason Starcatchers came out first was it was the second book. Dave and I started writing that well after I'd started Kingdom Keepers. But one of the provisions of my agreeing to do this was that the Disney attorneys and executives would have censorship privileges. So I turned my book in, and it took them 11 months to get it through their organization and approve it. So all their attorneys read it, then all the executives of all the different departments read it and had to sign off on it. And in that process, we wrote Starcatchers and published Starcatchers, so it actually came out first. And I was, of course, biting my nails. The longer this went on, I thought, they're cutting this thing down to a book by Ridley Pearson, the end. And I just didn't even want to see the red line on it when it came through. But it finally came back to me. They had not censored a word of that book. including let me turning the dolls into snapping turtles. So, I mean, to them, hats off. Because ever since, they've let me, you know, put hyenas that eat people on their cruise lines and do things that no corporate entity should ever allow, but they did. And I just can't thank them enough because they've let me have this wild ride along with my readers. And it would have been different had they slammed the door on a few of those things. I would have known, okay, all of that's off limits, but they just said, no, you know, go for it. And they recognized that it was so outside of their sphere that they felt it couldn't help but engage a new bunch of people in the Disney magic in a way that, you know, we don't get. I mean, you don't get backstage, and I've been there, and they let me share it. So if you're willing to read the book, you can see stuff people will never see. When I was in the Utilidor, which is their euphemism for smelly tunnels under Magic Kingdom, it's about 1.5 miles of tunnels. They're 40 feet wide, enough so that golf carts can go both directions, and they carry all the cotton candy and t-shirts and the DVDs and the cast members and all of that back and forth. And I kept seeing this heavy machinery like this. Imagine this pipe 5 times the size. So, you know, it's like this big around, and it's running to the right of many of these interconnected tunnels that are beneath Magic Kingdom. And I finally stopped the guy and I said, what's with this giant pipe? I'm seeing it everywhere. At which point Dave Barry still mocks me to this day because he says, you know, there's a costume shop with 2 million pieces in it. Does Ridley want to see that? No, he wants to see the pipe. But that's the kind of thing that interests me. But Dave was with me that day. But and he said, have you ever seen any trash be taken out of Magic Kingdom? And I said, no, but what's that got to do? He said, we suck our trash out of Magic Kingdom. So they take their trash bags, and every trash bag is within about 40 feet of an offstage area, and you lift this hatch, which I did, and it's as heavy as like a submarine hatch, so it doesn't get opened accidentally. And it's going, and you drop this thing, and it gets sucked and whipped through this system, you know, sometimes a 1/4 mile, sometimes a mile. And get spit out, and so I said, now I gotta see where it goes. So I went, and they've got a trash compactor the size of an 18-wheel truck out there. Huge amounts of trash in it that puts it into these giant 8x8 bricks, and they mount, every night they mount those dry bricks onto the back of 18-wheelers and drive their trash out of Disney World. But I, again, was sitting there going, kid, trash bag. Kid, trash bag. You go into a cannonball and you're like 60 pounds, down the chute, you're gone. So by the end of the first book, you're gone. I don't advise it because it will kill you, but it doesn't kill trash. So, but that's the kind of thing where I don't even have to make it up. You know, you just run with what you see and then say, okay, I can alter this just a little and make what I hope is a fun time out of it. Yes, sir?
Now that Disney bought Lucasfilms, do you think you can add Star Wars characters into your next book?
I think they might allow me to do that now. It's funny when that stuff comes out. Like when Pixar characters came up, it got a little tricky and it took a few weeks to get permission. They might allow that. That's such a hallowed franchise, I'm not sure I would touch it. But you never know. I've said that, but I don't. Anyway, thank you all for spending a Friday night with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. They will go into the Plusser account and
Thank you.
Yeah.
and it'll be there.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
I'm going to go and get backstock for winter signs.
Okay. I'm gonna come around here. Can I open up your book for you? Pages. That way you can talk to Ridley more, and he doesn't have to
Do you have any questions?
do pages.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you guys big readers?
Yeah.
The more you read, the smarter you are. Plain and simple.
It's the same name.
It's AJ and Vanessa.
Remember that for